Here we go. Here is the component for 2020 paper. So I'm going to go through the whole thing. Not just the practical bits, but the theory bits at the same time. Again, I've got the mark scheme over on the right-hand side here, so we can look at it together openly. And I'll be covering all the practical bits that we can do, as well as covering all the technical numeracy bits as well. Might do this section B in a separate video, I think. Okay, let's start at the front page. You'll have 10 minutes to set this up in the setting up time. So, new project in Logic. Save the project as something. Well, not as something. comp4/_ your candidate number, such as 1234, whatever your number is. Set the metronome to 120 BPM and import drums. It won't always be drums. You'll have to import something to start with. Yeah, let's have the tempo information. Aligned with the beginning of bar 1, this would ensure the drums are audible and play in time with the metronome. So let's just pull this guy over. I don't need this audio track at the top right now. Whoops. Let's bring that back. It's you I don't want. There we go. Play at bar 4 in time with the metronome. Bar 4. Great, there they are. And we're off. So listen to the drums that you've imported. Identify the process that has been applied to the cymbal in bar 13. So what's going on with our cymbal? Again, just turn that metronome off. Sounds like it's been reversed and then it's been struck. So what have our options been? Distortion, flanging, so some modulating, normalizing, bringing it up to 0 dB, or reversing. It was a reverse cymbal. There's no distortion, there's no flange, and the drums levels are low, so it's not been normalized up to 0 dB. It's not a very obvious reverse sound, I don't think. Yeah, maybe just around here. Okay, so the reverse one. It's the most obvious one anyway. Listen to bars 14 to 22. Most of the drums have been quantized to a 16th note value. Identify a bar where quantizing the 16th notes would incorrectly change the rhythm. 14 to 22. So let's scroll this guy over. Oh, why isn't my scroller working? That's weird. 14 to 22, did it say? Most of the drums quantize to 16th notes. Probably bar 21, because it sounds like it's been quantized to a value beyond 16th notes. I think our 16th note section's here. Deca. No. So basically, you don't want to, bar 21, I feel like, has it's got values that are greater than 16th notes. There's our 16th notes, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then twice that, deca. Yeah, there's our 16th notes, and then approaching in bar 21, we've got a note value that greater exceeds that. So if we were to quantize it to 1/16th, it would change the note values. It would lengthen them, and we wouldn't get that whatever feels like a 32nd note fill, or 1/64th, pretty quick. What does it say? It just says bar 21. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's why if you were to quantize it to 1/16, it would shorten those note values down to 1/16 rather than allowing them to exceed that. So they must have been quantized to 32nd or 64th notes, depending how fast you can hear that. How fast one can hear, is that a thing? I can hear really quickly, or identify quick notes. Yeah, it's pretty fast. So 16th notes would just it would slow it down. Not slow it down, but it would lengthen the note values to something more like what you would see here at the end of bar 19 into 20. Dicka 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 dicka. There's our 16th note value. Draw the drum part for bar 18. Bar 18. On the piano roll below. Bar 17 has been completed for you. There's bar 17. There is some of bar 18. No, that is bar 18. Sorry, yeah, 1, 2, I can't see, the lines are quite faint. So how do we do this? We need to go and have a listen. First of all, bar 17 and 18. Also, bar 17's been done. So we can use bar 17 to identify what each of these blocks is doing, okay? So then we can listen to whatever pattern is being played in bar 18 and then scribble that in. So unfortunately, it's not MIDI, so you can't just open it up and have a look at what the MIDI is and scribe that in. You have to use your ears. So what's that first thing we hear? It's supposed to be a snare drum. So snare drum, hi-hat, snare drum, closed hi-hat again, and then like an open hi-hat and the kick drum here. So we know there's kick drum, open hi-hat, closed hi-hat, snare, another closed hi-hat. Yeah, and there's another snare drum. Pants snare drum. So then we have in bar 18, so this is where, let's have a look at some of these divisions so you know where to describe each one, okay? So we've got, if I open this guy over, there we go, so 18, 18, 1, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 3. These divisions get more intense the more you open them up. But so what's it showing us on here? Oh, sorry, 18. Yeah, 18. 18, 2, 18, 3, 18, 4. So let's zoom out a little bit. 18, 2, 18, 3, 18, 4. Let's go 18, 2, 18. Oh, that'll do. So 18, 18, 2, 18, 3, 18, 4. So what you can do is you can just play that. It's going to drive you crazy, but you can loop that. I don't have a pencil tool to do this myself, but I'll tell you how. So you just listen for one element at a time. So the kick drum, and then you can just check as to which measure or subdivision of each measure. 18, 18, 2. Yes, there's some notes there. There's a note being struck right here. So let's have a look. So we've got kick, 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 kick. So we can describe in the kicks really nicely and easily, okay, on the one of each bar subdivision here. So kick, 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 kick. On 4, so we've got one on 14, sorry, 18, 4, 18, 4, 3, which is half of that division just before the end. So just here, kick, 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 kick. In fact, yeah, I've got it open on this side. You can see it there. Kick, 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 kick. And then we've got like that open hi-hat sound, which is syncopated against the kick drum. Kick, hi-hat, kick, hi-hat, kick, hi-hat. There's our kick, kick, hi-hat. You see where I'm going with this. And then you can listen out for the closed hi-hat and the snare drum as well. Okay, so it looks like that closed hi-hat is being played at the same time as our kick drums on the one of every subdivision, which is like basically it's when our hi-hat is closing, right? So we've got the hi-hat on the offbeat, on the syncopated. So we've got pss, 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 pss. We've got that going on, and we've got the snare drum at the last division just before 18-3. Da-boom. Okay, so it's da-boom. There it is, da-boom. You can see it right here, da-boom. And this isn't a bad skill to have, actually. If you're hearing like a drum loop in audio, and you're like, damn, I want to be able to play that. You can either just like, well, to be honest, like any normal person, just use your ears and play it in, and go, okay, that feels about right. That's the kick or whatever. Use the you know, you use your ears and then your hands on the MIDI controller just to respond to those drum bits in the right way. Or yeah, you can closely analyze it. So you can go about this one of two ways. You can just listen and then just pencil it in. If you're a drummer anyway, and you know where those divisions feel, and even if you're not, if you're just like you're good at like creating complex rhythms or simple rhythms, MIDI really well, would usually pencil those things in. Just have a listen and scribe it as best you can on the on the MIDI grid right here. It's pretty easy, pretty nice little task. And this always shows up. The drums are out of time in 23 to 29. I'll zoom here out a little bit. 23 to 29. It's going to be a long one. 23 to 29. So let's hear this with a metronome. Oh, yeah. Edit the audio so that the drums are in time. Repair the partially kick... Okay, there's a couple of things here. Edit the audio so the drums are in time. And also repair the partially cut kick drum on bar 30, beat 1. So it probably wants me to include bar 29, doesn't it? Not 2 bar 29. Well, yeah, well, okay, including off. And then also there's a broken kick drum over here, is there? Okay, that tape slow effect. So we need to fix all this. The easiest thing to do, this is a really nice and easy one. You can see here the beginning of bar 23. Our kick is way over here. Should be here. So let's just cut at playhead with Command T. So I've clicked on the 23 here, and it's found it, dead on. So I've hit Command T, so it's hit right there. What I'm going to do then is whatever the language goes. Let's have a listen through to make sure that it doesn't join back up in time. Although having just scanned across with the playhead here. 27. Yeah, you can see that the transients start after each one. So I'm assuming we just have to pull this forward. What's bar 29? Yeah, again, it's playing just after. So if I cut at the beginning of bar 30, because it looks like, although we need to repair this kick drum in a bit, let's cut the playhead here. And what we'll do is we're just going to drag this guy back so it starts on bar 23. Or I can just grab this bit of audio here, click and drag it over. So it grabs the beginning of that transient. We'll get into the macro here to make sure that that's I've not left any gap. So there's a little bit of a gap there. Let's just make it super on top of the transient like this. Good, just where it starts. Put it over so it starts on bar 23. We can check this out in a second to make sure it's running with the metronome, or we might have to sort of just pull it forward or back a little bit. Let's run it out of here with the metronome. Zoom in. Okay, that was pretty much on the money. It looks good. So we need to fix this stuff over here. So I'm just going to put in a little loop area. So this guy, this is all, I assume we need a brand new kick drum here to start at bar 30. So let's wipe this guy out of the way. Let's just, I'm going to cut this guy here. So I've got this little guy. I want to borrow this essentially. So I'm going to use let's pull this right up to the beginning of the kick transient again. Let's zoom in on the macro so we can make sure we're not compromising any of it and taking any of it away that we don't want to. Over here like this. Now I'm just going to copy and paste this or borrow it. So I'm going to hold Alt on the keyboard, click and drag it over, and it'll make a duplicate and leaving this one guy undisturbed. And I can move it now so it starts on the beginning of bar 30. So let's make sure that this plays okay. Okay, nice. That's good and clean. Now we just need to fix the end of bar 29. So we can just take this guy out. That sounds okay. It doesn't sound like we're actually losing anything. Is there a clean cut at the end there? Let's just zoom in and take a look at the end of this guy. So we've cut into the audio. So that's, I believe, that's where all the bass starts. So we can either take this and we can just move to a fade tool. I mean, it didn't sound like it was popping or clicking, but we can just do our best just to fade it out, so it doesn't present any pops and clicks. Let's just listen to the, maybe like from bar 28. Yeah, it feels like it's missing like a little bit of the sustain on that. Maybe we can borrow it from somewhere else. Yeah, it feels like it ends just prematurely. Boosh. Yeah, it's like the sustain on the cymbal is gone. So if I put it out, maybe I'll just fade it out from a longer time. But I feel like we're going to get some of the that glitch in. Yeah, that sounds kind of cool though. But probably not what they want you to do. I mean, you know, there's nothing you can, unless we can find a kick with sustain on. Oh. Or this guy. I mean, it's probably just like a choice thing. Then maybe they want the you know, that sustain cut off anyway, so it finishes like nice and sharpish to get ready for like the following drum break. But I feel like yeah, losing out some on the sustain is gonna hurt it a bit. But let's try a bigger fade. Okay, yeah. Let's have a look at the mark scheme audio while we're here. Actually, we can do that. Have a listen to, is it question 1? We've done anything else yet, have we? Question 1, mark scheme. So let's find. It's about here, right? Interesting. That sounded like it had glitch in it, actually. Interesting. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong bit. Let's find out what the mark scheme says about that one, because I'm pretty happy with that. 2024 paper mark scheme. Oh, I think I've got these up already, haven't I? Preview. The drum shifted 1 late semiquaver 57 ticks. Ooh, shows the edit for the 4 marks. Check drum timing by lining up the candidate track. If it flanges, then it's okay. So that's how the mark schemers do it. Mark schemers. Drums are in time. Yeah, we did that. An edit has been attempted on the drums remain in time and no further glitches. Okay, there are clearly no audible glitches. We've done that. The kick drum has been replaced. We did that. There are no audible glitches in changes in level. The kick drum is in time. If the drums are not soloed, mentioned and left on. Okay, it's got nothing about like the cymbal sustain, so let's just leave it. I think that's okay. Again, you got to be quick about this exam because there's so much to cover. So let's just leave it there. So the drums are in time and the kick drum's been repaired. That's all it's asked us for. Nice and simple. I wouldn't bother unless it's quick and easy work for you, going, which I was trying to do there really, step outside the question to make things like, oh, okay, you know, that cymbal sustain's kind of cut off. If it's not mentioned in the question, just forget about it. They can't penalize you for it. You know, you repaired the rhythm and the timing, and we fixed the broken kick. That's all it wanted you to do. Cheap work. Question 2 is about the synth parts. Import the MIDI file synthfills.mid. Synthfills.mid. Let's just move our project back. Good. Synthfills.mid. Let's toss it down here. Yes, let's have tempo information. And it says, align the parts so the synth fills begin playing at the start of bar 22. So keep an eye on that. Probably doesn't always want you to bring it in at bar 1. So bar 22. So a synth fills start. Complete the table below. Oh god, I'll do this in a separate video. MIDI binary stuff because it's just silly stuff. There's simple equations we can do to figure this out, but I'll cover this in another video. Decimal to binary. Forget about it for now. Import synth fills example. This illustrates how bars 27 to 28 should sound. So synth fills example. Let's have this guy, synth fills example, and go to Logic. Pop this down. Let's say 27 to 28. Can't remember. Should sound. You should not use this audio in your final mix. This file illustrates how bars 27 to 28 of the synth fills should sound. Create a synth track, a synth sound that matches the timbre of synth fills example. Let's have a listen to the synth fills example. Yeah, nice. Okay. So at the moment it's just all playing piano, right? It's playing so high you can only hear the hammers. This file illustrates how bars 27 to 28 of the synth fills part should sound. Not the whole thing? Oh, sorry, 28. So, not the whole thing. So, that's just how that bit should sound. Unless it's like, well, ensure the octave matches the example. So, we may have to go into the MIDI data here and move these notes up and down the octave. Because at the moment, this sounds pretty high, doesn't it? Because our example is playing... Yeah, you can see in the MIDI data there, this first part's played low, the second part's played higher, but whether or not they're the right octave ranges, we'll figure that out. Use square wave with no effects on the synthesizer. Ensure the pitch bend range is set to 7 semitones. Copy the amplitude envelope. Copy the velocity sensitive filtering. All right, that's a lot to unpack. It's a big boy. So... the following illustrates how bars 27 and 28 of the synth fills part should sound. So I assume we just apply it to the entire synthesizer. I'm not going to just automate a synthesizer in. So we're just going to slap it on. So we've got a Steinway. We're going to take away our Steinway. We're going to put in a synthesizer instead. Let's pop in the retro synth. Where's the pitch bend range on here? Actually, does this one have it? We need to take a look at the pitch bend range. Does the retro synth have a pitch bend range? Just a sec. Retro synth pitch bend range, because that's something we need to change. Retro synth glide and auto bend. Time, depth, auto bend. So yes, it is down there. I suppose that's the guy. Glide, auto bend, pitch bend range, mode. Time, depth, semitone, maybe it's that. Time knob, depth knob, bend type, on off button, blend type, mode. Set the time it takes for the pitch of one note to travel. Depth knob, set the pitch bend range. Okay, so depth knob is the pitch bend range, I assume. So, reset that to whatever that is. Okay, so I got the retro synth on here. So I've put it now on the MIDI. So we have to use square waves only. Let's start with this square wave. Let's put them both on square waves. Let's just try oscillator 1. Square wave, no effects. The octave matches these examples. So we may have to change the octave. Either in, I mean that sounds a little high, doesn't it? Woof, that is so high. So high. Can I bring the semitones down on here? No, let's change it in the MIDI data. That wouldn't work at all, would it? So let's select all, so Command A. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and hit the down arrow. Let's pop it down an octave. Oh, that is painful to listen to. I apologize profusely. Here are our example. I think it needs to come down lower, right? That's still pretty high. Yep, you come on down. So let's highlight our MIDI data. Let's get the synth out of the way. And Shift, Alt, down. There we go. That's the right octave range. And the example. Okay, the filtering on ours is a little too low. It's a little bit brighter on the example. So ensure the pitch bend range is set to 7 semitones. Okay, pitch bend range. Well, let's sort out the filtering at the moment. Let's go to our retro synth. Let's pull this filter out a little bit. Let's hear the example. And hours. Yeah. Yeah, the second one's just got a slightly different filters. You might want to play with this a little longer than I do, or try a different synthesizer altogether. To be honest, you can try whatever synthesizer you like. Mine's pretty close, but the main thing was, one of the main things was pulling the MIDI data down to the right octave. We're using a square wave. Pitch bend range, yeah, because I think after this it does a little, does a thing. It sounds nothing like it, my bad. So there, 7 semitones it said, right? 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go, there's our pitch bend range. So let's hear what it does there. And there we go, so there's our pitch bend range during, although it's not actually turned on. Okay. Yeah. Let's try and make that great. Doesn't actually seem to be doing anything. Pitch bend range, 7 semitones. Okay. The pitch bend range is set to 7 semitones. Copy the amplitude envelope. Okay, so I mean it sounds pretty similar. Like there's a quick attack on there, quick, not much of a decay in volume. Quick sustain and release on the example. Come back. Where are you? Here we go. Yeah, quick attack. Very short decay. Doesn't drop in amplitude that much. I'd be tempted to just try a different synthesizer, guys. Something on the ES2. So we've got square waves. Let's just use oscillator 1. So square waves. The pitch bend range on this guy is over here. So bend range 7 semitones. Okay, that's doing it. I don't know why it wasn't on the retro synth, but the pitch bend range there, it must be something I'm missing on the retro synth. I've not used that before, but maybe the ES2, it offers you more. It's a scary looking thing, but it's a great synthesizer. I think already that stock square wave is a bit better. It's just I needed something a bit more grainy than what the retro synth was giving us. Let's try that filter off. Sugar, let's hide the example. Maybe that's why it sounds so good. Yeah, there we go. That's annoying. That one's like much more grainy than ours, and it said no effects, so I can't even put on some distortion, which would give it that extra harmonic content that we're hearing a bit later on. So maybe that's with no effects, or maybe they mean like flanges and modulation effects, but I don't know. Velocity sensitive filtering. Velocity sensitive filtering, eh? What is that? Do they mean like, well, velocity is loudness. How sensitive it is its own thing. It's sensitive to oneself. The velocity sensitive filtering. Does it say anything to that? Let's take a look here. So synth fills timbre, correct octave and pitches. We got the right octave, square wave, allow saw or pulse. 0 if any effects are added. Pitch bend range of 7 semitones. We did that. Amplitude and pitch envelope. Yeah, that sounded fine. No portamento. Matching low pass filter with no resonance in bars. I tried to add a little bit of resonance on the retro synth just to give it a bit of a crunch, but it didn't really help. Ignore any vibrato. If the synth fills part is not soloed, has effects or the metronome is switched on, assess what can be heard. Okay, yes, you have to bounce stuff in solo each time you do it. The instrument is not a synthesizer slash, example bass guitar. Nothing about the velocity. I assume that it just plays at the same dynamics. If I'm getting this wrong, someone email me at markdon'tcare.com. No, it's fine. Tired, long day, lots of coffee. No coffee. Copy the velocity sensitive filtering. So I assume that just means make it dynamically the same as the example, which you can either change by, it doesn't say add on a compressor, but if you have a look at the MIDI data, you can see that this part's all in red, this part's all in blue, so if it's blue, or towards that sort of, oh man, that's so horrible. Ooh, kind of nice. It's a little lighter in velocity, so they move over to the dark side of red. We've got pale oranges, greens, down to pale blues and purple. So the colors change on a spectrum here depending on how hard those notes are being hit. So maybe it means like this velocity, but it sounded okay where it was set. Yeah, because those are some horrible sounds, but we don't want them too loud. Anyways, there's that question. Hopefully that clears up some approaches to that. Whew, moving on. This is about the synth riff and the piano part, and creating a bass part. Import synth riff and piano.wav. See how long this test takes me. It takes me a sec. Synth riff and piano, right? To Logic. Oh dear. Just chuck you in there, find out what we need to put you. The beginning of this audio track should be aligned with the start of bar 1. Riff starts at bar 2. Okay, cool. Let's go back to Logic. So you're over at bar 1. You should start playing at bar 2, which it looks like it does. Yes. Let's unsolo some stuff. I don't need the example anymore. Let's move that down. So this is my track so far. Very nice. The synth riff in bar 30 has an LFO modulating the sound. We've listened to some of that today. Alright, you can hear that. It's a bit glitchy, it doesn't sound great. Has an LFO modulating the sound, so it's a tremolo effect on there. Identified the wave shape. Well, we looked at some of this before in the retro synth, is that the LFOs, they can use different waveform shapes. Sine waves, which are a lot smoother. If I show you one on here, if I had like this guy, it's waveform shapes down here in the LFO and the ES2. Triangle waves, sawtooth waves, square waves, sine, should be a sine wave under there, square wave, no sine wave. These are the pulse waves. They just do random things. But let's have a look at I'm going to put up the retro synth because it's a little easier to look at. I don't want to lose my preset on there, although I'm not too bothered, to be honest. We're just workshopping stuff. Retro synth. Here we go. So here's our LFO. So yeah, sawtooth waves, triangle waves, square waves. No sine wave on there, but sometimes you'll have a sine wave, just the smooth boy. So it's like, okay, what wave shape is the LFO using when we listen to the modulated sound? So let's hear it again. Bar 30, right? Yeah, there it is. So, it's most definitely a square wave, right? Because it's coming on and off. So, with such coming in, then going away, without any real sort of slope or fade in or fade out. Okay, things like our sawtooth waves or our triangle waves will offer this glide out oscillator waveform shape here. So if I just play the synthesizer and then introduce the LFO, a little softer, rather compared to the square wave. Going to be much more on-off. Okay, here's the sawtooth in reverse. Going to be much more on-off, right? So in our example, let's turn this LFO off because it's going to mess with stuff later, isn't it? In 30, so on-off, right? Which is what our square wave's going to give us. So I'm going to guess square wave. Aha. There you go. It's not a saw. It's not a sine. Yeah, the white noise would be random. So yeah, it's not fading smoothly. It's very on-off. What's the LFO rooted to? Well, volume. It sounds like a tremolo, so it's not a cutoff frequency. It's not doing pitch or anything like that. It's volume. Okay, we can hear the volume cutting in and out there. There we go. Identify what effect this LFO creates. There's our tremolo. It's not chorus because the tuning's not changed. It's not pitch. It's not doing the wah wah on the filter. It's tremolo. It's just volume. Okay. The tempo. Oh god, yeah. We're not going to do this question. I'll do a separate video for this. Look at this. The tempo is 120 beats per minute. So the duration of a crotchet is 0.5 seconds. The LFO is timed in quavers. Calculate the frequency of the hertz in hertz of the LFO. Oh my god. Like that's maybe it's just because I'm dumb, but I'll come back to this question just because it gives me a headache. So we'll work out some math for a question like this. Again, this question has just showed up once in these past four or five papers, so not a great deal of like revision will go into like that sort of maths there. Some of the stuff's just a bit silly. You just don't need to have this sort of stuff as a producer or a music maker or a music enjoyer. I just think it's a bit silly, but we'll come back to this guy as well as binary. Because there's 4 marks there. I don't want you guys miss out on possible 4 marks if you're feeling a bit eggheadish. So we'll come back. On the graph below, draw the waveform identified in part 1, so square wave. Label the axes, label the amplitude of the LFO, label the period of the wave form, I assume it's meaning, the period of the wave. So let's take a look down here at the graph and we'll explain through it. So there's our square wave, our positive and our negative values. On the x-axis going across, we've got waveform. Will they allow time? Yeah, okay, so time. Well, so that's, you can't just label it like waveform because it is waveform, but it's what goes across left to right, sorry. So that's in time, seconds or milliseconds. Then, of course, going across the y-axis, we've got the amplitude, the voltage, the gain, dB. So that's volume, this is time, okay? We've got positive and negative on the waveform, okay? So it doesn't just go across the top line or just across the bottom line. We go from the 0 point here above and below and above and below. But we've got to draw our square waves. That's the waveform we found out that that it is, right, for our LFO. Amplitude is right here in the positive, allow peak to peak, and the period of waveform is indicated here, okay, from both a positive and a negative cycle, so a complete cycle, okay, of the waveform, a complete cycle here. That's the period of the waveform. Just say label the waveform, so label the period of the entire wave, label the amplitude of the waveform. Here it is. It's turning on. There's a positive. Label the axes. So over time, voltage. Draw the waveform as well. So there's the waveform. There's a mark for the waveform. There we go. Very nice. Nice little bit of a graph study right there. What do we got next? Identify the bar where the piano enters. Oh my God. Apparently it's on bar 14. I'm not going to listen through to bar 14. Is it just like in the entire song? All right, on the synth and pianos fill, right? When do you hear piano? Okay, let's go back and find out when we hear piano. Let's just, if it's telling us bar 14, we're not going to. All you'll do is you'll just listen for piano. So let's hear synth and piano. Okay, there's the piano in the background coming in on top of the synth. Fine. Next question. The synth riff is a 2-bar loop with occasional variations. Dum 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 dum. Excluding the LFO effect and filtering, identify 2 bars where there is a variation. 2 bars where there is a variation. So it's a 2-bar loop with occasional variations. So apart from the filtering and the LFO. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do it now. Sorry, I'm not going to do it now. But you can scan through. Why is my mouse wheel working? That's a bit of a shame. Just hold shift like a Neanderthal. So you'll just listen through 2 bars where there's a variation, but you can't identify anything that's had an LFO effect or filtering. So let's just jump to it. So bar 13, that's 1 bar. What's going on in bar 13? Okay, so that's the variation. Okay, so it's like. So it's the variation dom 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 dom. Bar 29, excluding the LFO. Isn't that where the LFO was? Or was it bar 30? Okay, with the pitch bend thing. Oh, hold on, let me take out this guy. That's in the way, isn't it? Okay, so yeah, the LFO comes in on bar 30. So 29 is definitely different. I mean, rather than like listening to the whole thing to find like the differences, just maybe take a look at the waveform and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, bar 29 is definitely different. There's something happening there. There's a bit of space. So jump to that. You know, you can use the waveform as like an indication as to where things are different and happening differently. In the song or the track or whatever. Let's go back. And the last one, bar 33. That's where it changes as well. So bar 33 over here. Okay, just because it ends. Yeah, okay. Import bass.wav into your DAW. That was fun. Bass.wav into your DAW. Where are you? Here we go. Where do you want the bass? Use audio from bass. The bass must begin at the start of bar 6. So we're just kind of guinea pigging this guy, right? So we're using this. Let's keep you down here. What does it sound like? Okay, there's an obvious pop at the end, so we'll have to fix that at some point, I assume. Use the audio from bass. The bass must begin at the start of bar 6. The bass must finish at the end of bar 29. The bass must play in unison with the synth riff throughout. The bass must not have any clicks or glitches. Okay, so it needs to play until when? The end of bar 29, start of bar 6. So the tempting thing to do here is just to click and loop it all the way, right until we end up at the end of bar 29. So, oh look, there's the little guy. Hello you. So we need to clean this guy off. So let's just take it away. Whoop. So it should end nicely. Then what we need to do is make sure that it can loop. Because if I try to loop it now, then it's going to be out of time because it's not all the way until the end of the bar. So what we can do is, there's probably a couple of ways we can do this. One way we can do this, which isn't going to cost us too much time, is that we need to get this audio to the end of bar 8. There's probably a couple of ways. I think I'm probably remembering the slowest way right now, which is to turn flex on, then go to rhythmic, and if you hover, oh, there we go, it's done it already. Easy. Okay, so it's just it's fit it to the bar. Huh, there you go. That's quicker than I thought it'd be. I thought I'd have to manually drag it over, but there it is. Flex on, rhythmic, tight. Let's hear that with the metronome, make sure we're good. Okay, cool. Now we can just, it's click free. We can just drag this guy. Or do I want to do that? No, I don't actually want to do that because bass must play in unison with the synth riff throughout, because we're going to have to do a little bit of flex to some of the notes on the inside of this guy. So let's have a listen to both these together. Well, it doesn't start there anyway, so we can loop it for... See, the thing is, if I loop it, and then if I go in and if I start changing some of the notes in one loop here, it's going to do it to every single loop, which means which I believe anyway, if I just turn the flex on, if I go to pitch, This will all make sense in a bit, because we have to change some of the notes on the bass to make sure it matches the notes being played on the piano. Yeah, you see how it's kind of grayed this guy out? So whatever I do to this one, it's going to do to the loop thereafter, because it's a copy-paste. So it's tempting to loop this all the way over, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We need to painfully, I think, make some copies of this guy. Oof, that's... Or what we could do, we could loop it. Watch this. Watch this. Let's loop it to bar 29. Is it 229, including 29? Must be 2. There. There we go. So, oh, it's new track. I'm going to borrow one of these guys. So you come down here. I just want one of you. So, now I've got the loop playing all the way through from here. Alright, there's our first change, right? Bar 13. Do, 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 do. So I want to change this guy. So I'm going to borrow this guy on a separate track, bring it over. And on here, I'm going to cut and take out bar 13. See you later. So at the moment now we've got... So now I'm going to start, like, this is going to be like my, I'm going to break this audio down here. So this will be bass edit. Whew, it's stressful, man. You guys have to work so fast on these exams to get this stuff done. Whew, don't want to scare you, but it's fine. You got like 2 hours. I don't know how long I've been doing this at the moment, but we'll take a look at the video in a bit. So let's just solo both of them. Put it on a looper. I'm going to put this guy to flex pitch because I want to change the notes that are being played on the bass, right? So in the example... Dum 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 dum. What's mine doing? So I need to take those notes. Dum 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 dum. I think, if my ears have got that right. So let's go in here. And our example. Dum 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 dum. So we need to find out what that first note is, and then bring that note down. Do 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 do. And our example. Dun dun dun. Is it going that low? Dun dun. No, it's going lower than that note, isn't it? Dun dun dun. Is it E? Too low, I think. Oh, too high. D? No, my ears doth deceive me. Oh, there it is. Is it F sharp? Do do do. Dun dun dun. No, it's too high, right? Oh. Oh. Is that right? Down, down, down. No, too high still, right? Is it just doing an octave? What's this note? D sharp. That's annoying for you, isn't it? Yeah, D sharp, right? Down, 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 down. Get down there. Is it D? Oh, don't know, guys. I think it's D sharp. I'm probably wrong, but I'm just gonna say it is. Dom, 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 dom. Bloody note is that dom. Yeah, D sharp. I'll die on that hill. Yeah, there we go. I think I was just a bit sharp, so I double clicked on it and it spat it into the right little thing there. So we got. So we need to change some of these notes. This note plays down here as well. Dum 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 dum. I think it is that note, but it's starting too late, so I can click and drag this guy out as well. Oh, magic! So it starts a little earlier. Pull this guy back out as well. Ooh, you get in there. What's going on now? Dong, 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 dong. That's playing right actually to clean it up a little bit on the inside of Flex here. Dong, 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 dong. Yeah, let's bring this guy back so it's on the marker. Okay. It's playing a little too Okay, yeah, so there's a couple of things you can do there just to stretch this guy out. So that's the right melody, at least anyway, the right notes. That sounds fine. Okay, let's move on. So let's keep listening to our bass loop until we find another variation. Although it did give us the variations, didn't it? Or we guessed them, but let's just keep listening. Alright, so this is the last one, bar 29. It just goes. We just don't need these last two notes. We can back this guy off. Yay! Or does it click there? Does it? Yeah, nasty. Is it you? You doing a thing? I think generally all the audio they've given us is quite clicky for this guy. Alright, cool. Bass done. You can always just grab this fella, although the flex pitch is only on this channel, so you can't really drag it up. So just leave it there; it's fine. Oof, there we go. Lane unison, no clicks and glitches. Well, some of the audio you gave us was a bit clicky anyway, so I'm not gonna say anything. Bass players in time in unison. Bass player and no bass in bars 1 to 5. Attempts have been reduced the volume of the loop point click. Yeah, we did that. Bass plays in time. The A flat has correct pitch and rhythm. The E flat has correct pitch and rhythm. We changed the pitch of those notes, although we chose D sharp, so E flat. Tomatoes, including the rest. We did that. The bass audio was not used. If the bass audio was not used, okay, well, whatever. That was fine. Okay, good. Easy, some skills. So mostly cutting, looping, flex pitch stuff there as well to create the bass line that matches the melody of our synth riff and piano. Vocal part. Import vocal to a new track in your DAW. Where are you? There we go. New track. What do you want us to do with this guy? The beginning of this audio track should be aligned with the start of bar 1. Singing starts in bar 6. Ooh. Does start in bar 6. Yep. Listen to bars 12 to 21. A gate was used. 12 to bar 21, did you say? A gate was used to remove ambient noise on the vocal recording. Identify the problem the gate has introduced. Let's just solo our vocals here.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are, but I saw you do everything to try and break my heart.
Well, the obvious thing is that the gate, release is too tight, so it's not letting the vocal phrases finish. Something like that. Yeah, cut breaths, chattering gate. Oh, okay, a little bit more basic than what I thought, but yeah, it's basically cutting it off when it shouldn't. Chattering gate. Hey? Cut breaths. Yeah, or an extended part of the vocal phrase that's not being used. Listen to bars, and we did that. Complete the following sentence about audio formats such as MP3 and AAC. Lossy compression. So lossy compression is anything that has been compressed. So if we're using MP3s or iTunes AAC files, although they are AAC was the response to the MP3. They're still compressed, but not as compressed as MP3. They're still higher quality than MP3. So lossy compression, I suppose, reduces some of the data. So there is a loss in sound quality. A benefit from lossy compression is that the file size would be smaller than an uncompressed file. So yeah, we take like WAV files, large size files, we turn them into MP3 files or AAC or anything else smaller than it to shift it around, be able to stream it and download it quicker, those sort of things. But the things we lose a little bit of the high end. Okay, we start to squash the frequency response of it, so it's smaller, but we don't have as much fidelity in there. Below are listed audio formats in alphabetical order: AAC, AIFF, with a sample rate of 44.1 bit depth of 4 bits. That's very small. 16 bits is our standard, which is how many bits of like data points per sample slice. So like bit depth. Okay, so it's like you can have 44.1 sampling rate, but if you've only got 4 bits per sample, that's not a lot of data per sample, so it's not going to give you a lot of audio information. CD and MP3 at 160 kilobytes per second. Complete the table to rank the audio formats. Best, second best, third worst. I guess I'm assuming it'd be worst would probably be the AIFF with just 4 bits. CD quality is the best. AAC is better than MP3. It's got a higher kilobyte per second rate, so I'd probably go CD, AAC, MP3, AIFF. Yeah, CD, 44.1 16-bit, AAC at 320 kilobytes per second, which is better than MP3. MP3 here. AIFF, which is basically Logic Pro's version of the WAV, is usually like right at the top, but with a sample bit rate or bit depth of only 4 bits. Again, we'll take a look at some of this stuff at another time. But if I just show you one here real quick, analog to digital waveform, something like that. I didn't even type. Silly me. Analog to digital waveform, sample rate, bit depth. Let's just see if what images this throws up. All right, yeah, cool. So, what's a good one to look at? Maybe, yeah, this guy. So these are the sample points that it's sampling our analog waveform. 44.1 will sample 44.1 times per complete cycle, which is twice our hearing range. So it's going to sample at 2 points, twice as much, so we get a complete wave cycle. Now, for each snapshot, it goes, we've got like this across like the y-axis here. This is the depth, the bit depth. So how many bits of information, not just how many times we sample it, but how much, whatever the information is in terms of its depth. So if it's 16-bit, it'll grab 16 bits of information per sample. If it's just 4 bits, it's just going to grab 4 different data points, okay? Which is just going to be pretty rubbish. It's not going to give you a lot of bit depth. So sample rate and bit depth are these little squares on the inside, okay? There we go. Yeah, here we go. Sample rate, bit depth. There's lots of lovely videos on it going into it. Lots of explanations. Each line represents a new sample. The time between each sample represents the sampling period. And then the bits of data that go down it is the bit depth. So here's a low sample rate. Oh my god, grainy. Low sample rate, higher sample rate. You see we've got more snapshots as the waveform progresses. See if I can find one of bit depth. Low bit depth versus high bit depth. Low bit depth versus high bit depth on a graph, maybe. Low bit depth, high bit depth. Yeah, there you go. So you can see these sampling points. There's many more bits than there is at a lower bit depth. That's just been stretched there, probably just so you can zoom in to see, because if it was as short as this, it'd be quite difficult to see all these little different bits. So a lower bit depth, what's that like? That's like 4 bits, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's got many more bits per its depth. So there you go. Let's go back to preview. So there's our audio quality. again, I think there's some stuff in the classroom where you can look around elsewhere to be like, okay, what's the best audio quality? What's the worst audio quality? What are these formats, etc. The phrase to piece back all the parts in bars 24 to 25 of the vocal has been compressed using MP3. Why would you do that in the middle of a take? Some of these things are so dumb. 24 to 25.
Anything.
Okay. Name the unwanted sounds that have been introduced by the data compression. Piece back all the parts 24 to 25. Did I have them in the right place?
Anything.
Oh, 24 to 25, so including this? Oh, it's never clear.
Anything. To piece back all the parts.
Yeah, okay, it sounds like it's been played through a washing machine, right? The unwanted sounds. There was like some high whistly sort of sounds in there. It didn't sound very pleasant.
To piece back all the parts.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like a balloon squeaking, introduced by the unwanted sounds. You could describe that as all sorts of hellish things. Artifacts. Okay. Yeah, that is the official vocabulary. We call them artifacts. Basically, when you limit the sampling rate and you squash it down, or you limit the frequency response, the allocated like frequency spectrum, I suppose, when you squash it down to an MP3, you're sacrificing some of the top end of the frequency response. And what happens is we get aliasing or artifacts, which is when it's like, okay, I'm trying to sort of get that information, but it's kind of hit a wall. It's like, well, this audio quality can't read and play back those frequencies, so it kind of folds back in on itself, and some of those frequencies start to layer back on older frequencies. Then we get older frequencies, around like the upper mid-range rather than all the way up. It doesn't all up, so it's kind of cramming itself in. Then it creates artifacts and aliasing, and that's what it is. That'll be in another lesson out there, but you can take a look up aliasing and sort of like quality reduction in MP3s versus WAVs or whatever, and see what sort of stuff that kicks up. That'll give you an idea of it. I don't know if I can find a graph real quick of like aliasing in audio. Aliasing examples. Here we go. I think this one I've used before. So, yeah, the Nyquist theorem. This is the whole thing that's just about like the sampling rate. Oh, it's a whole thing to get into. Maybe there's too much, but look. Basically, if you look at the blue, that's all the stuff we want with a smaller sampling rate, and we've got squashed down to MP3. Some of these, the upper signal components, the frequency response up here, it's like it can't go past because we've not given it enough room to sample. It's going to fold back on itself, creating these aliasing artifacts here, and it's going to make the top end sound all squishy, like it's going through like a washing machine. So look it up, aliasing, the Nyquist theorem. It's interesting stuff. It's interesting stuff at all. There you go, fold over. Take a minute to take that in. Yeah, look at some graphs and whatnot. It's really interesting. It's science. All right, let's move on. Identify the bit rate that has been used. Kilobytes per second, 140, 128, or 320. Okay, so standard sort of bit rate. So what's our bit rate compared to bit depth? This can be quite confusing for some, and me sometimes. I forget too. Bit rate. What is bit rate? I'm not ashamed. I'm going to Google stuff while we do this. It's the units expressed in the unit bits per second. So we've got the bit depth, which is the quality per slice of audio. And then I suppose the bit rate is how quickly we read those bits. Right? The number of bits that can be converted or processed per unit of time. So if we've got a high bit depth but a low bit rate, it's not going to be able to read all those bit depths in time. Where if we have a low bit depth and a low bit rate, they're going to be like dumbed down so they can read each other quite nicely. But a high bit rate, high bit depth, they're going to be able to, the rate is going to be able to read the bit depth essentially. There we go. This is some video for beginners, or you can listen to my rant. Yeah, the rate in which the bits are transferred from one location to another. So it's all about like that analog to digital conversion. Are we getting all the information quick enough? That kind of thing. Okay. So if it was 1 kilobytes per second, what does it say for A? Would be indecipherable. We wouldn't be able to hear it at all. C, not 128 because there would be fewer artifacts. Kind of a difficult one, yeah. We're around about 40. Apparently, it's as crap as 40. Not as good as 320, which is standard for MP3. Because the artifacts would be inaudible. It would capture at 320 kilobytes per second. It would capture it all, depending on obviously the bit depth that it's been recorded with. Anyway, but yeah, 40. So 1, it's like, that would be, you wouldn't be able to hear it. 30, 320 and 128, it's like not crap enough. 40 kilobytes per second, it's just crap enough. There we go. Right, here we go. In an experiment, an engineer recorded 500 hertz spaced sine waves to a CD, compact disc in brackets if you don't know what that is, and an AAC, which is used in iTunes here. The graphs below show the results. With reference to the graphs, evaluate the difference in sound quality between CD and AAC. So if you take a look here, it's kind of hard to look at. I'm going to zoom way in. So these lines at the top, these spiky boys, these are the spaced sine waves that have been blasted at 500 hertz. Okay, like whatever they are, up 500 spaced hertz above. This black stuff, all this stuff down here, this is the noise floor. Okay, so this is just like, a sine waves are pure wave. It's not going to have any additional harmonic content or anything like that. It's a pure tone. So it's not going to have any additional harmonic content, which is probably why they chose that for this experiment. This is just the noise floor. Mechanical noise, from computers, dust, all that sort of stuff. So as you can see, the spaced sine waves on CD quality have got the same amplitude response all the way through. And the noise floor remains the same. However, in the AAC format, we've got spaced sine waves down here, all consistent dynamically until about 1600 hertz. We start to drop off, and it's not as loud as it was with the CD. And then down here, we've pretty much got nothing from like, I would assume would be like 19K upwards. It's way down here. The noise floor varies as well, greatly, quite noisy, and then just drops off here. So what does this tell us about the quality? Let's take a look at the, you're probably starting to guess for yourself, to be honest, which is good, but let's take a look. So we've got 8 marks, so assessment objective 3 and 4. So make a point and explain. So CD, flat frequency response all the way through. So true to sound source. It's bright, sound is present, even above the human hearing range, unlike in the AAC. That's, we sacrifice sort of this amount here because we don't really need that for casual listening so much. We're not going to be able to hear that as well. AAC is a reduction in the volume at high frequencies. We see that rolling up from about 16K. AAC doesn't produce high frequencies above 18.5, which means it would sound dull and muffled. You kind of get the point here. That's frequency response that you can judge by the sine waves. Noise floor comparisons between the two. Please have a read of this yourself. I don't want to go through it all because it will just slow the video down. So just, go through some of these here. That's it. Just 2 things, noise and frequency response. Well, that's the 2 things to look at, really, isn't it? So frequency response across the CD and AAC in terms of the sine waves, and then the noise floor between the two as well. Yeah, very nice. Okay, now it's just question 5. So the question 5 is always like a last few like practical bits, and then a mix down at the very end. And I'll do section B another time. Then it's coffee time. I'll do another paper. You should have the following tracks: drums, synth fills, synth riff and piano, bass, and vocal. Yep, we got that all. We don't need the synth fills example. We can kill that. The bass we did over 2 tracks. So I think we're good, aren't we? Drums, synth fills, synth riff, piano, bass, and vocal. Apply automated panning to the synth riff. Bars 4 to 5 should be affected. So bar 4 to the left, bar 5 to the right. Oh, okay, synth riff. So let's just find this guy. So bar 4 to 5. So here we go. Oh, bar 4 to the left, 5 to the right. Is that right? 4 to the left, 5 to the right. Okay, really tedious. Yeah, but just automation. Go down to main, pan, and we'll just put in a couple of nodes. either side, because otherwise you'll end up dragging audio from down the way if you don't put in a couple of extra nodes. So we got this one on the right. Let's have another node here. So we got a middle point node and then bar 4 to the left. And you just kind of go to the macro a little bit just to make sure that we're right up to the line there. And this guy's down here on bar 5, and you finish over there. Oh, wasn't that fun? 4 to the left, 5 to the right. Again, I don't think you're going to hear it in stereo through my speakers, but if you're trying this at the same time, it's not too clean there, but I can't be bothered to fix it. Well, I just did, but there you go. There we go, easy. So 4 to the left, 5 to the right. Next, automated filter to the synth riff. Bars 10 to 13 should be affected. Automated filter 10 to 13 should be affected. It probably wants to finish that cycle, doesn't it? So including bar 13. Yeah, 4 bars. Okay. Use the filter type as heard in bars 6 to 9. Oh, we've got to go back. Let's hit C. All right, so what? We just got to make it. We just got to automated filter to the synth riff. So beginning of bar 10, the cutoff frequency should be set the same as bar 9. Gradually increase the cutoff frequency. Okay. So let's start with EQ. These nodes are off by default. So let's turn on this one because we're going to make use of the low pass filter, aren't we? So we need to basically make sure, for a start, that bar 10 of our riff here is as filtered as it is in bar 9. But we need to automate it. Otherwise, this is going to start to impact on stuff over here. So let's automate in. Let's go to automation. Let's go over to EQ. The high cut. That's the guy. Let's move this guy up. So if you're a little bit lost, let me just catch you up. So bars 10 to 13 should be affected. The filter type should be the same as heard in bars 6 to 9. So this sort of like low passed. So I'm automating it on so it doesn't affect everything previously. So here's our high cut. So we don't want it to affect anything over here. So I'm going to put some nodes in. And it's got to return to normal by over there. So eventually what it'll look like, it will slant like this, right? So it's going to start here. And over time, it's going to open up the filter like that. That's the automated filter. If you look at the rest of the question, at the beginning of bar 10, the cutoff frequency should be set the same as bar 9, so we've got to make sure the filter carries over appropriately. Gradually increase the cutoff frequency so the effect continues to build until the end of bar 13. So let's see if we're close. I've put it way down to 39. That's probably a bit too low. Let's try like 100 hertz odd. Maybe a bit too low. You hear what I'm saying though? It's like we've got to match that the cutoff frequency so it carries over smoothly. Bit too dark, isn't it? Let's brighten her up. Close, a bit more. That'll do. Then it opens up. There you go, and you probably observed the EQ curve opening up just like that as we automated it in. Easy. Next. Listen to the modulation effect in the synth riff in bar 30. Modulation effect on the synth riff bar 30. Is this synth and piano, or is it synth fills? Okay, that, right? Oh, recreate the same. I thought it was like, just have a listen. No. Listen to the effect, but recreate the same in bars 31 to 30. What was it? 33. Is that including bar 33? I can never tell. In bars 31, 32, 33. So I'm assuming it's just like, okay, including 33. Fine. Okay, so it's a tremolo. We figured this out earlier. Tremolo effects. Let's put a tremolo on. And modulation. Square wave. So you can change the phase here. I believe. No, it's not the phase. Which one do I want? Is it the smoothing? There we go. Square wave me up. So we want to automate the plugin on and off, and we do that because we don't want to put tremolo on a tremolo on bar 30. We're automating this plugin to come on. Because I mean, we could just cut the audio up and then just slap a tremolo on a separate track. That's one way to do it, but it's if you're quick at doing this, it's good to just turn stuff on and off. So where is it? Is it tremolo? There should be one under main. Yeah, tremolo bypass and EQ bypass. So you can turn things off and on. So it's under main. So if you're ever looking to automate the button on and off and you can't find it under tremolo, you're like, how do I turn it on and off? I've just got the parameters, but it's under main. So we'll go to tremolo, bypass. So we only want the tremolo on bar 31 onwards, right? So it's oh, that's bypassed. We want it bypassed up here. So that's not quite right yet, as we've got to play with the tremolo a little bit. So it's like an eighth note sort of feel, right? But that's, I mean, at the moment, because it's 180 degrees out of phase. If I put it in phase, we should get a nice mono tremolo acting together, rather than, you know, so we've got left and the right here. There we go. Yeah, so if it's out of phase, then it's going to be poking it around with the left and the right. Have a listen. Which is quite neat, but we just want it in phase. So it's just giving us a nice mono tremolo. Yeah, quarter notes. Not really happy about the when it starts. I could just pull this over a little bit. So it starts at the beginning of that note, and we should be good. Yeah, easy. There's our tremolo. Retune the vocal in bar 25. Retune parts so that it has the same pitch as piece back in bar 25. Now this will just be our flex pitch again. So 25. Here. Oh, let's have our vocal. Here we go.
Piece back all the parts.
Oh, that horrible, horrible vocal that's been aliased and artifacted. 25. Retune the parts so that's the same pitch as piece back.
Piece back all the parts.
So it's like piece back all the parts. So it's got the same pitch all the way through, right?
Piece back all the parts.
So rather than piece back all the parts, piece back all the parts. It's just all staying there. So flex, pitch, let's go in and let's knock that vocal back up and retune her at the same time.
Piece back all the parts.
Piece back all the parts, says piece back all the parts. So we want these notes to be, you can click and hold on notes. Oh, it's a lovely F. Whew, and drag that guy up. Same here with this guy in the middle. But I'm going to zoom out a little bit across the x-axis so you can properly grab it with a little hand guy. Okay, let's hear how bad this is.
Piece back all the parts.
Oof, this little guy here. Push you up. Oof.
Piece back all the parts.
There we go. Piece back all the parts. So it's all the same pitch now. Listen to the rhythmic reverb effect in bars 6 to 7 on the vocal. I suppose we've got to recreate this somewhere else as well. So it's been a lazy producer that sent you guys this, because it's like, well, I've done some of the work, but if you can finish it all for me, I've done some effects, but they need to be done other places. So what was it, bar 6 to 7? Side flex again so we can look at it all in its pure glory. Listen to the rhythmic reverb 6 to 7 on the vocal. Recreate the same in bars 8 to 33.
What a fool.
Okay.
What a fool. What a fool I am.
Let's get bar 7 as well.
What a fool I am.
Okay, it's going to give us some direction. Recreate the same in bars 8 to 33. So is it literally for the rest of the vocal? Yes. Yes. The dry signal should remain unaffected. The gate on the reverb is side-chained to the drums. Okay, so there's a couple of hints really. It's not really telling you how to do it, but there's a couple of hints. So dry signal should be unaffected. So we're just we're doing this in send and return in parallel. So we open up our vocal. We're going to go to sends, send it over to a brand new bus, and we can just call it like vocal verb for now, whatever. Let's put on a reverb. What sort of reverb have we got on the vocal at the moment?
What a fool I am. Don't understand.
It's all dry there, isn't it?
What a fool I am.
Nice haul, maybe. Let's go to reverb. Let's have our space designer. Let's pick something kind of like large. So 100% wet if it's on a send and return. We don't want to send any dry signal over, so we go to vocal, send it all over. We're going to send it pre-fader because, well, we don't have any plugins on here anyway, but if we send it over pre, we'll get used to that if you're using send and returns like that. It basically ignores the signal chain and just sends you over the audio so you can freshly manipulate it on a bus over here. If you send it post, then it's going to include like any effects chains on there which will carry over to the mix bus, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now we want to, let's have a listen. So it's got that stutter. We're side chaining it to the drums. There's the big hint. Let's just have a nice bit of vocal over here, whatever. All right, yeah, the reverb's kind of appropriate. So let's put on a noise gate after the fact, and we're going to sidechain the noise gate to basically, I'm going to close this off,
and I'm sinking into sand,
to basically turn off the reverb. Okay, now what I want is we're going to sidechain over the drums, so whenever the drums play, the drums, you know, surpass a certain threshold, a certain loudness, it's going to open up our noise gate on the reverb to let that reverb in, and it's going to stutter in the same sort of a rhythm as the drums to give us that rhythmic effect. Okay, so we've got vocals sent over to the bus with a reverb on. Noise gate the reverb so we don't hear the reverb.
And I'm sinking into the sand.
Now we want something to open up that reverb to hear the vocal reverb. Okay, so we've sidechained it to the drums. The drums are gonna play. They're gonna activate the noise gate by the level, the volume of the drums to open up the threshold. So if the drums surpass -4 threshold dB, we'll hear some of the reverb, but we might have to bring the threshold down a bit.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you...
Well, let's bring the drums in the mix.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are...
You hear that? So if we're we're stuttering the reverb now because the drums are triggering the noise gate and letting the reverb in.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are.
Let's maybe ease up on the attack and release a little bit, let it breathe.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close.
Let's bring that down a little bit.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are. Better so you do everything. And I'm sinking into the sand.
And let's ease up on the size of that reverb there.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are.
Yeah, cool. The drums aren't playing there, so it's not opening up.
Chained to a lying art, but I still do anything to...
There you go. You can play with it until like the timing's pretty correct. Balance the levels of the mix. That's the last little bit of practical. So we just listen to the whole wonderful thing that we've done. And it's just balancing the faders, panning. I wouldn't bother, because of the time, I wouldn't bother like compressing this or compressing that or automating this or automating that. Just balance the levels overall. There's not a lot in the mix at all to deal with. So just make it a quick job. Maybe find out the loudest parts.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are. Better so you do everything to try and break my heart. And I'm chained to a lying art. Better still do anything to piece back on.
The drums are real quiet, aren't they? So yeah, maybe we'll slap a compressor on those actually, because they're not really cutting through, are they? Let's have that, because they are quiet guys.
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the things you are. Better so you do everything to try and break my heart. And I'm chained to a lying art. Better still do anything to piece back all the parts. Better still do anything to piece back all the parts.
Remember, these are logarithmic faders, so the more you bring everything down, the overall loudness is going to change, so be wary of that. You can always just start with everything at 0, bring the drums up, and then everything else, because I don't think we've got any volume automated apart from just some panning, right? So
And I'm sinking into the sand. I close my eyes to the
example. There we go, easy. Then we just bounce it off. It's not asked to do any panning or anything else. Just pop the compressor on those drums because they are weak. There we go. That's component 4, 2020. That's a couple of the those questions missed out, but I'll do a separate video on binary and working some mathy stuff up. But hopefully, this has now time captured some of the practical skills that we can use for this paper. Nice, and I'll do section B stuff another time on separate stuff, okay, because it's a bit of a grind. All right, let's see what that clocked in at. And all right, next paper.